Welcome back to the F1 2017 career mode here, guys, and you join me for the Season 2 finale at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. What a journey we've been on to get here this season. You know, the car fighting up from back of the midfield to now arguably the front of the midfield, and some very strong results in Season 2 with maiden win, back-to-back wins, and we've now got 4 wins under our belt, which I didn't quite expect to see. You know, there have been certain races where it's come to us, and certain races where we've just been able to, like Canada, our first win, where we were just on the pace and unbeatable, realistically. We've got the job to do one final time this season, and that is obviously secure third in the Drivers' World Championship. That is exactly my agenda for this weekend, and nothing else. And where do we start doing that other than qualifying? So we did our first lap. 9th place, it got me, and I knew I could do better around Abu Dhabi. Not the hugest fan of this circuit, I'll be honest. A lot of sort of 90 degrees sharp-ish sort of corners for me, but we come out on our second fast lap, and the Sauber's annoyingly going to come out just ahead of me, so we need to clear that as soon as possible. He seemed very unsure, Wehrlein, into the braking zone of the chicane, so I sent it right down the inside, compromised my line a little bit, but we had to get past him there, otherwise we were going to lose so much more time. We get a better run out of the hairpin this time around. That's going to help us down the whole of the monstrously long back straight as we open up that DRS and charge towards 200 miles an hour, nearly 3/10 up on our lap from the previous time. We're going to try and spot the 100-meter board on the brakes, tiny bit before it, kiss the apex, run it a little bit wide there, but that opened us up nicely for the second part of the chicane. I always find that little bump on the apex very hard. I've tried to work a setup in so to ride that a little bit smoother. And it's worked out a little bit for me, but unfortunately not on this qualifying lap. Once again, finding the 100-meter board for the braking zone just after the end of the second sector and flow it through the left, right, left. Had to lift off a little bit, otherwise I was going to go too wide over the curb, clipping the inside curb, and again, just spitting the car just a little bit wide as we go into the double right-hander just here before braking hard for a bunch of 90-degree corners, clipping the curb quite nicely, not using the curb on exit too much to obviously hurt our acceleration. I tried to avoid doing that as much as possible through this final sector where, like I say, nearly 3/10 up or over 3/10 up, 50-meter board, throw it in, extending the track a little bit, which wasn't quite ideal. Through the final corner, I lost a lot of time on apex and exit there, but we come across the line, P6, just behind Fernando Alonso with a 1:38.4 with only a minute left of the qualifying session. I've immediately dropped to P7, annoyingly. By the end of the session, though, P8 for Alonso. We were like 6/10 down though on Alonso, with Hamilton on pole, Vettel once again in second place, Bottas and Raikkonen, then Alonso, then the Red Bulls between us, which appears to be as normal, Ocon and Perez rounding out the top 10. So thankfully, a little bit last time, you know, 2 races inside the top 10, which is nice for us because normally we are qualifying outside the top 10, because qualifying is where I need to work on my pace the most. The game tried to get me to choose between a 2 or a 3 stop, and I'm like, no. We know it's a 1-stop strategy. At Abu Dhabi, the 5 lights are out, and away we go for the season finale of Season 2 and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Better start than both Red Bulls, past them before Turn 1. Alonso once again trying to go around the outside of one of the Ferraris into a first corner, but put out of place by Raikkonen. He's actually slowed by Raikkonen moving across the track. That's put Alonso right into our clutches as we go towards the chicane. We are on the outside of Fernando with the sun setting in the Abu Dhabi background, and we go around the outside, then down the inside of the chicane, and that's us up ahead of Alonso. We actually forced him out wide. That's allowed, I believe that to be Daniel Ricciardo, to pounce past him. Alonso trying to get him on traction outside of the hairpin. I think he's only just about managed it, but us up into P5 at the start of the race. We've jumped from P8 to P5 there in the first sector, and now we are behind Kimi Raikkonen and behind the top 4, the cars that arguably will just pull away as Vettel defends from Bottas. And like I said, we're racing Kimi for P3 in the Drivers' Championship here, so we need to make sure Kimi doesn't get away from us. And come the end of the first sector, or near the end of the third sector, sorry, Raikkonen is slowed down by battling Bottas and Vettel, and we were able to dive it up the inside of him and caught him completely unawares. That's going to put us up ahead of the Iceman and up into 4th place. Hopefully Bottas and Vettel continue to battle and we're able to stick up close behind them, but Hamilton has pulled a lovely lead out at the end of the first sector. And these Ultrasofts working well on the McLaren. I'm not falling too far back like I did in Brazil. Here we go at the end of lap 3. Bottas has pulled ahead of Vettel, or got ahead of him, and pulled ahead of him, setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. And we're over a second slower than the Mercedes driver, which, like I say, I've unfortunately come to expect. over the course of this season. Lap 4, they are starting to get away from me a little bit, but Raikkonen's now on the offensive as we come to the end of the second sector. Going to try and go to the inside. Very late on the brakes is Kimi. We're going to hold it nicely around the outside. Use the width of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix circuit to be able to successfully defend that position there. And you can see Hamilton has slowed a little bit. Bottas has closed up to him. Bottas has been the fastest Mercedes driver recently over the course of this season. Following lap around, Kimi tries the outside line. Unfortunately, no luck there. And we're building up almost a little bit of a train. And speaking of train, Verstappen was at the front of it for just a moment there. Alonso has moved up to P5 because Kimi has pit the previous lap. He's going to got the undercut on me. I did try and pull the fastest in lap that I could. Alonso has to go on for one more lap on the ultra softs there. Who else is in? One of the Red Bulls, I believe that to be Ricciardo, is behind me. So we're going to fit the soft tyre here, and we're going to go to the end of the race. Once again, going to be running our regular one-stop strategy to obviously try and, like I say, the cars that are ahead of us, we're going to try and hope that they make a further pit stop and fall behind us, and any cars that do manage to get ahead of us on track will then have to make that additional pit stop and fall behind. So you can see there, Raikkonen unfortunately has pulled ahead of me during the pit stop phases. However, he is behind Ericsson. Verstappen has also got ahead of me, which is a little bit annoying. So we're going to chuck it into Rich and try and get past the Red Bull as soon as possible with a mighty lunge down the inside of the chicane. Max tried to keep his nose in it when realistically I did have the corner, which was a little bit frustrating. Raikkonen pulls ahead of Ericsson, who then darts across the track. So any kind of big lunge down the inside, which would have been admittedly stupid from that far back, wasn't possible. So I got ahead of him through the chicane, and Verstappen has followed suit. So all these guys on the ultra soft tyre, they are going to have to be making another pit stop in this Grand Prix. By lap 11, Raikkonen had passed Hamilton, and they had caught the back markers of Hülkenberg and Stroll, who were having an almighty scrap for P8, I believe this to be, P7 or P8. You can see here they could nearly go 3, nearly 4 wide into the left. Raikkonen comes out on top. Stroll is through. Palmer's on the outside. Where's Hamilton in all of this? We've managed to launch our car down the inside, out of nowhere, down the inside of Hamilton. We've moved it up into 9th place there by the looks of things. This is the battle for 7th as Hamilton is on the inside coming into the right-hander. Is he going to be able to hold the position against us? Not quite. Makes a bit of contact with our right rear. Puts the car a little bit out of sorts. But no, Raikkonen is up into 7th. Stroll 8th. We have managed to catapult ourselves there from 12th into 9th due to that massive scrap. We did have to use a lot of our fuel though, so we're going to have to be careful with that through the Grand Prix, as I do like to utilise that rich mix down the big old straight that we've got there in the second sector. I got the exit at the final corner all wrong, rode the curb a little bit. That's allowed Hamilton to make a huge move down the outside of turn 1. Can he keep it through the mid corner? Indeed he can. Credit to Hamilton for keeping that one completely around the outside. I suppose that's what he gets for having tyres that are a lot softer and yeah, just a lot more traction and a better car than myself there. But he's still going to find himself stuck behind one Lance Stroll. I've got it wrong into the chicane, which was a little bit annoying. Completely screwed my momentum there. You're going to see Hamilton being able to just power past the Williams of Stroll. I need to make sure Hamilton doesn't really get away from me, because like I've said, what I want to do really is, I can't race Hamilton on track, but if I can keep close enough to him, so when he makes his final pit stop, he comes out behind me, so that way, I'm trying to basically beat the higher cars on strategy as opposed to raw pace. So you can see here, we start lap 15, Hamilton is 7.6 ahead of me, so he's pulled out a pretty big lead. Verstappen is behind me, 1.2, so he lost a lot of time there in the traffic. So that means that Verstappen here, like I say, is going to be racing us to the end here on strategy. I got an awful exit out of the hairpin, just understeering wide. Verstappen is going to throw himself down the inside. We're going to have to defend into the chicane. I don't know what it is here, but in Abu Dhabi, I get it regardless of what tyre. And on the tyre where it's like graining, they get to about 20%, and I just lose a boatload of performance. And then around about 45%, they start to come back. It's almost like they get a second life. I get that at some circuits, but regardless of tyre, regardless of car, regardless of everything, basically, I always get it around Abu Dhabi. And you can see here, we start lap 17 with 25 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel. But we find ourselves in P3, and we're there on strategy. Alonso running the same strategy as myself, going from ultra soft to soft tyres. By lap 19, Kimi Raikkonen, the man that we were racing in Brazil, we're racing here again in Abu Dhabi, and we're racing him for 3rd place in the Drivers' Championship. Just shoehorning that in one more time is going to be up against us here. And I must admit, I was just sort of doing laps, minding my own business. Kimi caught me completely napping into turn 1. I just braked way too early, conservatively. I was just basically saying, let's just get the car to the finish. And Kimi just pounced on me. Like, I didn't even see it coming. I looking back at this now, looking at the footage back, I even remember it was almost like I was on autopilot, not really registering what was happening. And then Kimi gets through, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm still actually racing here. You know, so almost just a little bit of tunnel vision, realistically, for the end of the Grand Prix. So Raikkonen got past me, and he's going to disappear up the road. Admittedly, just being one place ahead of me doesn't mean the end of the world for the Drivers' Championship. Like, we'll still beat him. But just look, over this one lap, Kimi does a 39.9 after being released from behind me. We do a 43.3. That's over 3 seconds slower than the Ferrari, man. That is awful pace. But like I say, I was just sort of plodding along. By the end of lap 22, Lewis Hamilton on the super soft tyre, now up behind me. He's going to be trying to make a move, and I am not going to be caught napping against Hamilton like I was against Raikkonen. He hasn't quite pulled very much ahead of me, only really by the Pirelli balance does he get a whole car ahead of me. Does he come across in the braking zone? Yes, he does. Very annoying. So I swipe across the track, lunge it straight down the inside. If he's going to come across in the braking zone, I'm going to make a bold move down the inside, and that is that was that against Hamilton that time around. So he's now going to come across, and I'm not going to be friendly to him anymore. So we're going to squeeze him. We're going to squeeze him to the inside of the circuit, make his line as difficult as possible to take. And then we're going to go across to the braking zone on the racing line, so he can't just swipe across us. Make it so he has to slow down to about 30 to take the left-hander. He did get a much better run, so once again, we're just going to squeeze him right to the outside of the circuit here. Hamilton, of course, already driver's champion. Doesn't really matter for him. I suppose, realistically, I don't want to throw it in the wall or retire due to a crash, but we're going to go side by side with him through the left-hander, force him out to, or hang him out to dry, as it were. So we'll retain 4th place against Hamilton. Thank you very much. And we're slowing him down. Bit of a train is forming behind us as we've got 4 laps left to go in this Grand Prix. Hamilton, once again, going to give it a go. We're going to be even more aggressive this time, squeeze him even more than we did before. Hamilton is able to correct his line a lot more, though, this time around, so we're going to have to brake a lot later. He was able to keep it side by side for longer through the corners. We actually have a bit of wheel banging as he tries to go through the right-hander, but once again, squeeze him out, and yeah, just basically a nice little battle with Hamilton at the flag. Once again, very similar to Kimi. He's been able to get a big run on us into turn 1, but I'm not going to have it this time around. He did brake a hell of a lot later. Hamilton, though, on traction has completely outclassed me. We're going to hold it around the outside of him, and we're going to drift through turn 3. That had absolutely no help to the tyre wear that I've got there. But, yeah, Hamilton just very slow through the left-hander, and then my tyres basically at this point were shot to bits. I had no grip, no traction. Yeah, this one stop was a bit ambitious. The AI apparently don't get affected by tyre wear. Me, though, as you can see, I've got 4th through to 14th is what it felt like. As Hamilton once again is going to give it another go on lap 26 into the chicane, squeeze him one more time, but this time around he's got ahead of us much sooner, going to build a much larger gap to us. Doesn't come across the track, though, but I have to be very ambitious into the braking zone. Get on the accelerator. I've compromised my own exit horribly out of the right-hander. What's Hamilton going to do this time around? He sits in the slipstream. He has DRS. He's committed to the inside early for the next corner. He's going to be able to pull quite the ways ahead. That Mercedes power and DRS open. We're going to try and hold it around the outside if we can. Got to carry a lot of speed through the corner. Hamilton almost keeps it there. But, yeah, just through being sheerly committed. Good, solid battle with Hamilton's at the end of this Grand Prix. And then I've gone wide, compromised on my traction, and that's all it took. Stupid mistake has allowed Lewis Hamilton through at the end of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. I could have, realistically, I could have kept holding him behind me. And you can see here my car, I was frustrated with that I'd let him through. Just tried to take a few of the corners too quick for the car. And you can just see the lack of grip I've got in my rear tyres at this point. So 2 laps left, and just look at the gap he's already built to me. This is ridiculous at this point. He's going to cross the line. Let's see what the gap is that he's made to build to me. Hamilton crossed the line. We crossed the line. It's already 1.8 seconds. We did a 46.3 that lap. Hamilton does a 39.6 on the final lap of the Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel wins the final race of the season, but we're going to come across the line. It's 5th place and 3rd place in the Drivers' World Championship.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
So, here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
So Vettel wins the final race of the season from Bottas and Raikkonen. Hamilton in 4th place, myself in 5th. And then you got Hulkenberg, Ocon, and Alonso all trying the one stop, similar to myself there. Danny Rick and Verstappen losing out on their two stop, just not fast enough to make that work. And yeah, only no retirements actually that Grand Prix. So there it is. Solidified third in the Drivers' World Championship. Alonso brings it home in 10th place. Very productive season, but Hamilton just dominant this year. Just crushed everybody. Moving over to the constructors side of things, 319 points. Solid. Third place was very nice for us to get. Pretty happy with the progression of McLaren, and we'll see what we can look to do next season for the team in Woking.
Hey, quick question. How are you here? Are you happy? I mean, obviously, I hope so, but you do have some other options if you're up for a new challenge. Let me just grab the door. I had a call from another team a few weeks ago, and, well, things have moved on since then. These are the offers I've managed to put together for you. You don't have to do anything with them, but let me know what you think.
So there you have it, more options from Emma. So once again, similar to the end of Season 1, we can either stay at McLaren or move to Mercedes, Ferrari or Red Bull. As a second driver, I'm flattered to have these options once again, but I've already stated my intentions. We're so close to Force India now. I feel as if after the winter, we're going to be the fourth fastest team on the grid. And like I said, I've got my intentions to bring McLaren to the top of the table. So an interesting note here. Just to finish off the season, first of all, thank you for the support on the second season. I hope that can continue into the third season. Leave a like if you did enjoy and comment any feedback down below. Subscribe to be notified about the content coming to the channel. I'll shoehorn that in now before obviously we get to the end of the video, because I've got a few things that I just want to point out regarding this season. First of all, the performance of the car just felt excellent on low fuel. We just need to carry that over to the high fuel. So as such, we're now going to talk about the upgrades that come to the car for Season 3. Over to the chassis, we have a major weight reduction upgrade, 1,500 resource points. Get that on the motor, jobs are good. And aerodynamics, we have a major drag update for the car. So we're going to take a look at that. 1,500 resource points, thank you very much. We will put that on the car. And then we've got 1,000 left over. We're going to go for a front downforce upgrade. I looked at both of them and realised that they wouldn't really, it didn't really matter which one I picked. I suppose I could have picked the bottom one on there because that would have opened up that branching path, but doesn't really matter. Interesting note about this season, though. We scored points at every single race. I didn't even know that until this final screen here, which I thought was pretty cool. So we'll scroll down, we'll take a look at those. But guys, Season 3 is coming very soon. Get subscribed to check that out as we go to try and win the Season 3 Formula 1 World Drivers' Championship for McLaren Honda.